To be is to change. To change is to experience. To experience is to live. And to live is to find purpose in being. For without change, there is no meaning, no catalyst for advancement. That's why I've become a moth. And this video is solo leveling explained poorly, or the first part of 3 anyway. 3 years ago, the military struggled to subjugate Ant-Man and his inbred insectoid family and sent in the Earth Defense Force to settle their insurrection. The soldiers kinda sucked though. Some more prestigious lads make themselves known to the enemy shortly afterwards, with their cool moves and slick banter, causing Jumbo Jim, the White, to reveal itself. It doesn't stand a chance against Slim Lightning and Muscle Meat. Jimbo has cousins, however, so the heroes use area of effect attacks. Their dad, the bowl-cut bandit, uses the destructive power of the Flammenwaffer 35 and teamwork to do his own thing. God explains that 10 years ago, something created these sci-fi portals that open up to a host of various freaks that are immune to bullets. Luckily, the appearance of these gates also came with the added benefit of randomly mutating people into wizards who are now known as hunters. God looks directly at this guy when stating that you can't game the system by raising your own power level. Anyway, it's the present day now, and the local hunters are congealing to participate in a raid. Character development happens between these fellas when Sung Jinwoo, the weakest hunter of all mankind, shows up. He's mostly just famous for consistently being hospitalized. Jinwoo overhears the gossip, but has already come to terms with his notoriety. Ju-hee, his handler for the Dell, and B, rank healer, berates him for always getting injured, and takes him to the side to discuss further. In Jinwoober's last Dell, his party didn't bring a healer along, and he got beat up. Well, time to head out. This is Song Chiu, their boss for the day, and the one with the most skills. After the briefing, everyone wishes Jinwoo luck and heads in. He scrutinizes his pathetic kitchen knife briefly, then follows. Meanwhile, Chairman Go, probably the head of the Hunter Association, or something like that, discusses harvesting valuable rocks from the corpses of the dungeon beasts for profit, while Jibu reaps the rewards of his efforts. A goober ambushes him, but as he retaliates, finds that his wretched little knife cannot pierce the hardened carapace of the small green man, and Jinwoo is run through. Fortunately, Puffer Jacket Dad and Ju-hee are both here to help. Jinwoo wistfully gazes at the homies being useful, while he bleeds out into an exposition from Go about the rocks, which can be turned into battle gear for the hunters, or in the case of the government, a new source of energy. Song-san, their noble and venerable leader, takes down the dungeon boss, and is praised for his prowess. Mr. Jinwoo, however, is scolded for stubbornly getting himself nearly eviscerated every g-dang time he tries to fight something. The spoils of battle are inadequate, but at least Jinwoo will refrain from perishing today. A vaguely threatening hallway is suddenly discovered, and in light of their insufficient shaqualam, the group decides they should snoop around. Song-san expresses concern about this bonus spelunk due to the inherent risks, but he is peer pressured into putting the decision to a vote, which comes out to a tie. Jinwoo remains the only one yet to cast his ballot, and ruminates on his circumstances. With his dad missing, he's the only one who can pay for stuff like his mother's treatments or sister's education. Jinwoo votes to continue the expedition. Meanwhile, at the Hunter birthing pits, they touch this one to be assigned a ranking, then are immediately poached by recruiters looking for powerful creatures to harness. The bowl-cut bandit, Choi-san, now a leader of one of these organizations, engages in such practices. Thieves. They don't stand a chance against this stoic babe, Cha-Haim, an S-rank Giga Hunter, who is immediately swarmed and flees in terror. Back in the cave, Jinwoo apologizes for breaking the vote against Ju-hee, who does not accept him in the slightest, frustrated by his lack of self-preservation skills. She flirts immediately afterward, but the group has reached the boss room. Back in the birthing pits, chairman of the Hunters Association, Go Gun-hee, warns some babies about the dangers of the dungeons, stating explicitly that they should be afraid. Speaking of which, the homies are absolutely not afraid and waddle into this spooky chamber. Jinwoo looks at a big guy. Everyone is confused by the various art pieces and lack of monsters. Song-san engages analysis mode and begins to translate some of the inscribed wingdings. He reads out a list of commandments from God as Ju-hee has a panic attack after seeing the big statue move. Suddenly, the way out is sealed. This man is enraged and tries to leave, but instead makes an example out of himself himself for what not to do in this situation. Everyone is shook, instantly falling into terror and bewilderment. Jinwoo gets looked at directly, then soliloquizes about being a weak idiot who is constantly on the precipice of death and unable to afford proper equipment. This experience tells him that annihilation is imminent, and he warns the homies, saving at least a few of them from complete evaporation. Hubi and Sungo both have a minty bee in response. Song-san thanks Jinwoo for doing a raid call-out when he did, exposing his lack of a left arm in the process, which Jinwoo duct tapes up for him. Ju-hee, despite being a B-rank healer, typically chooses the easy dungeons because she's got a weak stomach for violence. She also can't move right now. This is unfortunate because the large rock man is probably A rank or even S. Song-san then presumes that the commandments from earlier were pertaining to this creature, whose laws they haven't been obeying. Meanwhile, this girl thinks she can do a better job than Jinwoo. After hearing about him from his sister, one of the hunters, under great distress, launches himself full speed towards the exit, but is turned into legs. Jinwoo figures out that since they're all kneeling right now, God probably doesn't want to kill them. To test his theory, he stands up and quickly bows. It works, and Jinwoo gets the rest of the homies in on it after explaining some. This reaction is giving me mixed vibes. That can't be good, probably. Just me? No? Puffer Dad stands up, revealing that they are safe from God's wrath. It stands up too. Jinwoo doesn't have another plan, but they should probably figure out how to implement the second commandment of praise. The Christian youth pastor takes the stage to display his skills at praising the Lord, but this doesn't seem to work because he was praising the wrong God. Jinwoo understands this, but the others don't, and decide to flee or turn into sauce. Puff Daddy picked a bad day to retire and gets sliced in half. Jinwoo ideates furiously, glancing over all the statues and assuming that the ones with instruments probably won't attack. It operates by the same code of honor as musical chairs, however, and Jinwoo-san must find his own musician, leaving BG behind. He is chased by God and attacked by a square wielder, which doesn't go so well in general health standards, but he makes it to the right place and pleases the statue. You don't got no leg, Lieutenant Jin. Ju-hee produces an impromptu tomato paste while attempting to heal him. This guy blames Song-san for making the irresponsible call to continue their delve, but Jinwoo knows that now is not the time for bickering, as there is one more commandment. An altar appears before them, ready to accept a sacrifice. Someone is eager to place responsibility on Song-san, who agrees, but Jinwoo feels differently. A single flame lights up, which confuses them. Jinwoo decides to have a closer look, and finds that the flames coincide with the amount of people within the ring. The door opens. However, the statues begin to menacingly snap their fingers and walk towards the unfortunate hunters. They don't move if you look at them though. This lady has a breakdown and pieces out, indicating that the orange flames affect the aperture of the door. Jibu reckons that this must be testing their faith in God by inciting fear and the false sense of hope. His pause causes another to flee. If another person moves, their group will lack the required perception range to halt the oncoming stoners. However, the blue flames indicate a time limit, which means that one person is doomed regardless. Judas thanks Jinwoo for getting them this far, hallucinates images of his family, then pieces out with tears in his eyes. Jinwoo attacks the altar, ideating furiously once more. Song-san offers himself up as a sacrifice and tells Ji-hoo to look after Jinwoo. She collapses though. Jinwoo pulls out his hidden no-jutsu, Uno reverse card, and insists that he die instead, giving Huji his precious rock to buy dinner with as requested. Ju-hoo resists, but Song-san incapacitates her and melancholically leaves Jinwoo to his death. He takes up a blade, intent on fighting back. Jinwoo does some pretty nice acrobatics, but doesn't do a good enough job, and is brutally toyed with while reflecting on his frustration and anger at those who left him to die. He is plopped onto the altar, finding himself unwilling to go softly into that good night, and wishing desperately for a second chance before losing consciousness. A dialogue box appears in his dreams, and Jinwoo blindly accepts without reading the terms and conditions. He awakens, confused but intact. These Hasidic diamond merchants from Hunter HQ arrive to conduct an investigation. They fill Jinwoo with knowledge regarding Song-san, who must now retire, and Ji-hoo, who must also probably retire. Then they tell him that he was discovered lying there on the floor, prone, undamaged, and with no creatures to be seen. Jinwoo is shook. The sleuths continue that Jinwoo may have experienced a second awakening, which means that he could have been bestowed with significant powers. With no trace of the S-rank monster in Jiwee's continued existence, everything points towards never mind. Jinwoo is still pathetic. The investigators apologize for getting his hopes up and remain confused about the situation, while Jinwoo ponders why they didn't ask him about his Linux distro. This causes him to examine it further and have a flashback to when he died horribly. His own Aeson shows up to scold him for his typical shenanigans, but she can't see his sci-fi tech either. However, after asking about how games work, Jinwoo accidentally uses a voice command to interact with the interface. His sister was just checking to see if he was a vegetable yet, and concluded that he wasn't, so pieces out alongside her homie, Song-hee. Meanwhile, Jinwoo gets a timed daily quest to do basic strength training. This penalty doesn't bode well, but he ignores it completely. Chairman Go is informed about the inspection, but remains wary of the many unanswered questions, assigning it as a special case. Choi-san gives Miss Cha-hae the job of training new recruits in a B-rank dungeon. Choi wants his guild to be ready for when some cataclysmic event happens. Speaking of which, a portal causes congestion on the freeway and draws the ire of the villagers. Jinwoo, of course, fails his daily task and is sucked into the Middle East to engage in a race war between the humans and worms for 4 hours real time. The nurses in charge of his care panic at his absence while he skitters through the desert. At least Jinwoo knows now that he shouldn't take those penalties lightly. The next day, he seems to have recovered and exits the hospital. Ji-hoo gets a request to join a D-rank raid, but is understandably hesitant. She is also pleased to hear that Mr. Jibby has regained consciousness and immediately goes to visit, unfortunately finding that he has skedaddled into the yard. The nurses outwardly contemplate his inhuman recovery speed, but this only serves to make Ji-hoo nervous. Jinwoo monologues internally about the various functions of his Neuralink, like a stat window, inventory, and quest list. He can use the rewards from daily quests to restore his stamina, or obtain a gacha box of wonders, which this time turns into a key for creating an instanced dungeon. The drive to get stronger compels him. As the news reports on traffic delays, Jinwoo visits Ka-san, which causes a flashback to when she initially fell unconscious due to mana exposure, and Jiwee's subsequent toiling in the fields of life to keep her alive. He crushes this apple in satisfaction at his exponential growth, then later goes to try out the secret train dungeon, which seals itself and him in an alternate dimension. His computer tells him that he needs a teleport rock to exit, which isn't ideal, and he contemplates his chances of survival. Nevertheless, he must continue, and runs into a group of wild goobers who he is able to defend against, despite being outnumbered. I would consider this impressive compared to his previous self, but a dog begs to differ, shattering his dumb little knife with its solid metal jaw. Jinwoo becomes frozen in fear. That is, until his body remembers that time he had to put down an entire Vietnamese orphanage and does acrobatics in response. This gives Jinwoo some confidence, and he decks that dog. This kind of works, but doesn't really affect it much, so he flees. Buying time to open up his inventory, grab hold of Song-san's old blade, and fillet the beast. More dogs. But now that Jibo has a sword, things go a little differently. Having demonstrated his prowess, the remaining assailant skedaddles, leaving Jinwoo to his statistical hallucination, where he spots that he has leveled up. He then promptly reaps the rewards of his advancement by mashing points into strength to get stronger. He loots a tooth from one of the dogs and discovers the in-game store, which he can sell his loot in, after which Jinwoo decides that to escape most likely means he's gotta duke it out with the boss. He doubts his capability, but is determined to make the most of his bedeviled powers. It's a good thing, too, because some more dogs show up to cream his corn. However, as we know, Jinwoo is pretty dedicated to ceaseless slaughter for the sake of those he holds dear, and he gets promoted to wolf assassin by God. Meanwhile, one of the gates begins to flicker with angst. If Jinwoo was a Belarusian bagel farmer, then these corpses would be his ample supply of bagels, and he obtains a variety of useful items, one of which is the teleportation stone required to escape. He ponders what will occur when he exits the instance, and if he should stay to grind more stats. Either way, he blames God, and figures he can't leave whatever fate is in store for him, so he continues on. Fuji gets a pager to respond to a dungeon break, blames herself for its appearance, then accepts the mission using Jinwoo's fervor as inspiration. Here he is, engaging in workplace violence based on color classification. Jinwoo is perturbed by this ominous dust cloud and what may lie beneath, citing his stagnant level cap and busted weapon as reasons to be nervous. It's okay. just trains. Suddenly, Jinwoo is blasted, along with his musty sword. It's Gyarados, a water flying type Pokemon, introduced in Gen 1, and the evolved form of Magikarp. Jungle ideates furiously, as he uses it to sharpen his fractured broadsword. This is ineffective though, and he gets launched into the pond water, and subsequently flung across the room. Jinwoo feels like he isn't strong enough, but I figured that if you can survive being slapped around so much, you should be able to dish out at least some kind of Italian cuisine, you know? He has a flashback to when Song reassured him that he tries harder than everyone else, monologues about his former ineptitude, then has another flashback while entertaining his personal philosophies on the sociological position between the physically gifted and not. This inspires him, and after one last slap, the radiation takes hold and fills him with the urge to trample the skulls of his enemies. Jinwoo reflects on his gross, crumbly god and wrangles the snake into submission with his industrial strength gorilla grippers. He defeats the Swamp King, receives a cool knife and some glands as a treat. Then the dungeon engages in cellular apoptosis and disintegrates, leaving him out in the streets. The military informs him about the dungeon break happening nearby, and seeing as Jimmy is a hunter, guides him to the site. Everything is mostly fine so far, besides the boss, which Jinwoo senses, here it is, being harassed by journalists. The hunters on scene are struggling to figure out how to murk Roxilla, which Jin understands just from a second of analysis. He also spots Ju-hee, who is in shock and unable to effectively heal. If anything, this D-rank boss should go down instantly to him now, so he winds up and Kobe's that bitch to death. This guy sees the tatty blade that felled the beast and ruminates on its wielder's frightfully destructive power. He's just some guy who figures that the rock had been weakened already though, and that's the end of part 1 of solo leveling. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, or subscribe. Additionally, if you have succumbed to my lascivious form, please consider donating to my Patreon, as some have so graciously done already. Thanks again. Bye.